to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 368th film from 2021. It's the Japanese psychological thriller romance called Ride or Die. This is directed by Ryuichi Hiroki and stars Kiko Mizuhara and Honami. I am Jesse, I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today. As always, there will be spoilers as we go throughout this episode, so if you haven't seen this film, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because we kick the show off with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's about a girl who murders her true love's husband for her. They then go on the run. Very basic summary of what this film is all about, but hopefully you get the gist of it. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about how this one ended up on Netflix, what's going on. So translations around the world. In Japanese, it's called Kanojo. So the literal translation is she. So this movie is a film about two women, two girls, and their love almost for each other, or their connection between each other. And the English title, Ride or Die, it's literally that idea of let's get in a car and go on the run and ride, or should we die together? That's where this one stands, I guess. So Spanish title plays on this as well. In Spanish language, it's called With You to Death. In Portuguese, it's called All for Her. That also makes sense. Very good one. Chinese goes with the same as Japan. It's She. In Greek, it's called Together Until Death. In Russian, it's called Through Fire and Water. Not sure. I'm not sure I like that one. There's very little fire or water in this film. A little bit of rain, that's about it. And in Turkish, it's called Escape or Die. So some good titles there. This film, it is based on Shin Nakamura's manga series called Gunjo, which was published from 2007 to 2012 in the manga magazine Monthly Ikki. In October of 2020, it was announced that Netflix was developing a live action film adaptation of the manga under this title of Ride or Die. And they said it would premiere worldwide simultaneously in spring of 2021. Significant changes were made from the original manga, such as making this a road film or a road movie. The two protagonists in the manga are anonymous in the manga, whereas in this film they have names and have very clear connections, I guess, to their youth throughout this film. In the manga, the anonymous names are simply referred to as Lezan, or Ms. Lesbian, and Magani, or Glasses. So the lesbian and the girl with glasses, but obviously they're given proper names in this film. The Japanese title was changed to Kanojo, denoting both the she and girlfriend in the title. The shooting of the film was done in sequential order at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So watching the film, you wouldn't know. There are a lot of films that were made during the pandemic that it's very clear of the social distancing and things like that. So this film, I think they did a very good job throughout. This did hit Netflix worldwide on the 15th of April 2021, filmed in Tokyo, as well as some other beautiful rural areas of Japan. This was nominated at the Septimus Awards for Best Director. And let's talk about the critics and audiences. What are they saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, it sits at 69%. That's on 16 reviews, so that is fresh. The audience has it at 62%, so a little bit lower. That's on more than 50 ratings, so still in that fresh category. On IMDb, it's only got 2,800 ratings, but it sits at a 5.6 out of 10. That's fairly solid, I guess. In Letterboxd, it's a 2.4 out of 5, a little bit lower. That's on nearly 18,000 ratings, but it's been logged by 24,000 people. On Metacritic, the traffic light system of green, yellow, and red. This is green in both categories for critics and audiences. The critics has it at 64 out of 100, that's on 5 reviews, and the audience has it at a 6.6 out of 10 on 8 reviews. So positive from Metacritic, probably the most out of all of these. What are my early thoughts for this film? I really like this at times, and I really disliked it at times. It's a real hard one to decide on, because there are some issues like the length, I guess, and almost the male gaze at times too, but there's some beautiful scenery, some effective storytelling, and it does make it an interesting watch. So I'm sort of in the middle on this one. I don't really dislike it, don't really love it. It's a good film. The characters, let's talk about the characters. So as I mentioned previously, this is about two girls. So we've got Ray. She is a lesbian who is in a relationship with another girl, but out of the blue gets a call from a long time crusher, and she has this longing crush from her school years on this girl, from Nanae. And Nanae reappears in her life needing help, like a character or like a trait that she had in their younger years too. And Ray doesn't really blink an eyelid before doing what she needs to help her, which is killing her husband because of the violence that he puts onto her. Like Ray, she comes from a successful family. She's got money. She's got a strong career. She's a plastic surgeon, but she's happy to throw all of this down the drain to do what she can to support the person that she loves. And this person she loves, Nene, realistically, she uses Ray. She knows how much Ray wants to sleep with her and uses her for money and gets her to commit crimes for her as well. She's all about thinking that the idea of money, because she's come from not as well off a family as Ray, she thinks that money can make her happy because this poor family and the opportunities that she hasn't had that she sees that Ray has had as well. And I don't know if she despises that or feels jealous of that, but that she sees that as successful and that's what she wants and thinks, she thinks that's what she needs almost too. But in saying that too, it's tricky, this relationship, because I feel like Ray uses Nene a lot as well, and thinks that she can use her money to buy her at various stages. So it's a very tricky sort of dynamic between these two characters. We'll probably talk about them a lot more, but I'm going to keep moving. The only other two characters I'll touch on is Mika, who is Ray's girlfriend at the time, who she literally bails on just to go and see Nene. I felt really sorry for Mika because she was sort of left in the air. She didn't know if she'd been left by Ray. She's got such a supportive mother. She's so, you can see that she's had struggles in her past in identifying who she is and what she stands for, and her mother's so supportive of that as well. And it's just sad to see that she's being so let down by Ray. Ray's family, we see in various stages. Her mother's passed away, but she has a brother who's married and has nieces and they're all nephews. They're all boys, and also another nephew's on the way with Masato's wife, but the brother, Masato, he acts like he knows what's best for women, not only for Ray and trying to demand that she does what he thinks, and the idea of not judging her, but thinking or putting out the expectations of what he thinks she should do based on society, but also because he does, you sort of see that he treats his wife the same way as well. So they're the characters. The director, Ryuichi Hiroki, 88 directing credits. That is a lot of directing credits. A bit of everything all the way back to 1982, I think it was. So a very possibly well-known director in Japan. I wasn't aware of any other pieces of his work, but this is a solid piece of filmmaking. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that worked? What are some scenes that didn't work? Right at the start of the film, we've got Ray who stabs Nene's husband, and the blood goes everywhere. Then he slices his throat. She's bleeding. This just took me by surprise to start off with. I didn't know much about the film. That just really got me, and I was like, well, okay, where's this going to go? We see Mika, the girlfriend of Ray, showing kindness to Ray after Ray pretty much says, I'm not coming back for you. And Micah, even though she's being dumped almost on the phone, still has the guts and the empathy to say that I'm actually happy for you, Ray, that you're with the person that you love. I thought that was a nice moment. Towards the end, there's this, motif of this coin purse that has a receipt and some coins in it as well, and Nene has kept this receipt and the coins from almost her first date with Ray, I guess, where she felt even with her for the first time ever because they paid their own way for this bill. I liked that moment, and I also liked Masato. He confronts his wife she lets the girls go. She lets Ray and Nene go and to escape for a little bit longer, and she sort of explained, like, he's very angry and he's like, why did you let them go? And she explains that she would do anything for him and their kids, so maybe they shouldn't be judging Ray for what she's done or what they've done together. I thought that was a good little moment too. Some things that didn't work. The opening scene, I get that it was this super long one take tracking shot of Ray going into this bar to seduce Nene's husband. It was so shaky and so off-putting. Like, use a Steadicam. It wasn't artistic. I didn't like it. That really frustrated me. And the shaky cam did appear at various stages throughout the film. The amount of sobbing throughout this film and crying from Ray and Mika, it was a little bit too much at times. That really frustrated me. There's this scene where Ray, it's a flashback to the past when they're at school, and Ray propositions Nene to pay for her school fees, and puts it on the line that if she doesn't pay her back in 5 years, then she wants her to let her have sex with her. I was seriously sitting there going, what sort of dialogue is this? And then it was followed up with her, because Nene's sort of like, no, I'm not taking this on board. And Ray follows it up with a line along the lines of that if you don't want a fingers girls inside you, go and work in a proper company and marry a rich guy. I was sitting there going, this is a bit weird, a little bit on the nose. the Nene, she pretends that she called the police on Ray, and then Ray just beats her up. I just thought this was a poor scene, considering the whole reason they were on the run was to prevent Nene from being beaten again by her husband. Ray is murdered to prevent this from happening. I just didn't like that. The taxi driver, there's a scene with the taxi driver. I'm not going to go into detail on this because I just can't talk about it. I'm not sure what it meant, to be honest. I think that's part of the frustration too. I'm not sure what it meant to mean. It was gross. I don't know. Didn't like that. Ray and Nene, they're sort of entrapped in Ray's family sort of holiday house by Ray's brother and his wife, and they jump from this high window to escape. And sort of like, oh, are they going to do a suicide pact together? They jump to escape and run a bit more. There was no way on earth that they would have made that landing from that window the way that they shot it. I don't know. That just was bad. And finally, part of this film is, are they going to have sex? That's the gist of this film, and they finally do have sex. The sex scene was on the nose and a bit too full on. I don't know. I felt awkward watching it. I don't know if anyone. I can't talk about it because to me, I just don't know. It wasn't artistic. It was just this moment where I still wasn't sure why this was happening, because I wasn't sure that Nene actually liked Ray or why she'd finally given in to Ray, and I still couldn't work out why Ray was so into Nene. I was a little bit confused. I'm a little bit all over the shop with this film. But there's some themes, some ideas. These could be wrong. These are my takings from it. That idea of love and romance and lust as well. Smiling. There's a lot of mention about what a smile can mean to someone, and they do play the English language song Smile quite a lot, and it actually fits in quite well. There's a lot about the metropolitan city too, the darkness and the danger of that compared to almost the liberating seaside where the girls run to. These two different worlds, not only in location but also in class between these two girls. The money from one family and the other family that doesn't have that money, that can't afford to pay for school, for a scholarship and all those sorts of things. There's a big emphasis on men in this Japanese society, that pretty much all the men that we see are horrible. Like the idea of domestic violence and violence against women, we see this through husbands, through taxi drivers, the list goes on. And that idea too of what women have to do to survive in this society. Rejection, that fear of rejection, that feeling of rejection and the struggle of gay people from not only their family but from society too. And again, this plays on family, and family can be what you want it to be. You can make family who you are, and at the end of the film the girls almost say, let's be a family together, because that idea of death plays throughout this film too. There are constant mentions throughout the film of the girls talking about, how would we kill ourselves, how would we end our lives, what have we got to live for, we don't have anyone else. And death, what does it mean? Is it meaningful for them to die with someone that they love? All very interesting little bits and pieces from this film. What did I take away from this film too? I think I've really got to put in there that I've seen a few not a lot of Japanese films, but a few Japanese and Korean films where the way that they structure time, I do really like. The idea that you don't get the title credit until half an hour into the film, the non-linear flashbacks, they just add such depth to the characters on how they first met in this film and the moments of them as teenagers and how they got to know each other. I like that. I think it was Drive My Car a couple of years ago, did this really well as well. I just like the way that that's done. It just adds a different dimension to film at times as well. Some questions, some thoughts, some pondering, some ideas. Music throughout this film, it was very interesting. There were a lot of English songs throughout. I feel like Norah Jones was playing at one stage. I couldn't find the soundtrack list, so I'm interested. Was that a Norah Jones song? I know there was that, it's the English song, the love me, say that you love me. My singing's horrible, please don't judge me on that. Such a good song, that worked really well. Good use of music throughout. Ray, at the end, I've obviously said spoilers, but at the end she chooses life over death in calling the police and admitting to her crimes. And I guess my question is why? Why did she eventually do this? It's an interesting thought. And this is a tricky one, this is my interpretation I guess, because Nene does say that when Ray's arrested, that she'll wait for her while the police take her away. And does that mean that she finally loves her now? And is this what Ray actually wanted? Or did Ray just want sex? And once she got that lust and once she got that sex, the conquest was done. And maybe she can't get past those roots of her family's wealth and the idea that she can just buy and pay for what she wants. And this is one of the things that she's had to work a long time for. And maybe she just wants to move on now. And maybe that's why she called the police, is because her quest is complete. She doesn't need Nene in her life anymore. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm intrigued what other people's takes on this film is as well. But I'm going to wrap this one up. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show. I think I think it was about 45 minutes into this film where I was like, this is the Japanese version of Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise is a great film. Very young Brad Pitt in that film. If you haven't seen that film, give that a watch. But I think it is hard to dislike this film, but it does feel like it could have been a whole lot better. It does create enough interesting thought, and I still think it's worth a watch. So I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. Solid for me. We are on socials. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter, on socials for this episode. I just wanted to ask the idea, why did Ray find Nene so appealing? I'm just very intrigued in if this is meant to be a love romance story. I never really got the feeling that Nene showed any interest in her romantically. It was more just a friendship. So why was Ray so determined to continue to support this girl, like kill her husband for her? I'm intrigued. If anyone else picked up on anything or has a reason why, maybe it's in the manga, I'm not sure. I'm interested. Let me know on socials. Other than that, we are back next week with another international film from 2021. This one is the Hindi language anthology film called Ajeeb Dastans. It's directed by Shashank Kadatan, Raj Mehta, Nuraj Gawan, and Chaos Irani, and it stars an ensemble cast. So looks like 4 mini films. This is probably the 3rd or 4th Indian anthology film we have done on this show. So I'm intrigued. I usually like them. They're usually pretty good. So join us next week if you're keen on that one. As always, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next week.